We're live. Right.
Wow.
Welcome to our first episode of Can't Take Your Call Right Now with me, Harry Monkhouse.
And me, Lauren Reeves.
So this is series one, episode one, and we're going to be talking about cold calling. But before we get into that, Lauren, we're recording on a Friday. How's your week been?
Oh, do you know what? It's been a bit of a week because I hurt my back at the beginning of the week, which meant that I had to work from home the whole week, which I never do. So I was at home all week, which felt really strange, but was a good week. Obviously, first week of a new quarter, back to zero. So it's just getting numbers back on the board again, trying to reset accounts, get the research going, like all the classic beginning stuff you have to do when you start a new quarter. So that's been fun, but it's been a good start. It's been a good vibe, even with the broken back. It's been a good week. It's what I get for just carrying the weight of success, It's just weighing me down. What
Uh,
about you?
well, no, I was going to say, now you know how I feel, but not because of the back, but because working from home. Uh, I
Yeah, of course. I always forget that you're remote.
Yeah, we try and go into the
Forget
office
it every time.
once a week, but it's not always a guarantee. But we've had the big dogs in town, so CEO, CRO have been in town this week. So, oh man, like back to back days in the office. I was like, was I normally this fatigued after 2 days of working in the office? I feel like I'm coming down with something, and I'm just like, oh, it's just been one of those weeks where it's just been up at God knows what time, like 6 in the morning. I've been
Yeah.
doing, I don't know if you know, but Australia changed their time at the start of October, but they change it in like all the
Oh,
different states. So in Sydney, they're 11 hours ahead. So to do calls with my Australian team, you've got to be up at 7 in the morning to catch them at their like 5. And it's just been like that plus doing the Q3 reviews plus leadership in town. It's just been a mental week. And I feel like this is the first
yeah.
time I'm kind of coming up for air, is
Yeah.
back end of Friday, and we now decided to do a podcast. So that now takes up my life.
There you go. There you go. Well, to be honest, hopefully the fact that it's the weekend, you're going to push through. You're not going to get absolutely, completely ill.
Fingers crossed. And hopefully
Because,
your back will be fixed by then and back into the office.
yeah, well, I did go to what's the ortho person? The person for backs.
What, like a
I went to the
chiropractor?
back, an osteopath.
Oh,
I went to an
super.
osteopath. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm on my way. I'm on my way to being back pain free, which is going to be lovely. I
Good.
can sit on a chair for the first time all week, so that's
Well,
nice.
that's always nice, isn't it?
Mm, it is nice, but should we get on to the important bit that everyone actually gives a shit about,
Yeah,
which
go for it.
is cold calling?
Mm-hmm.
Cold calling, cold calling. It makes sense to start on this one, let's be honest, because it's all that anyone really goes on about.
Yeah, apparently it's dead. Apparently it's not. Apparently it works. Apparently it doesn't. Uh,
Yeah, I
it's
saw a LinkedIn post this week as well. Someone slagging it off, as there always is. There's always a LinkedIn post of someone slagging off cold calling. It's just always the one that rattles people's feathers.
so I see that all the time. But like, what's your like not go to opener, but what's like your one top tip when cold calling? What's the one thing you always say to people when you're coaching them on calling?
I always say practice different openers, and whatever felt the most natural is the one that you need to do,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that there's so many theories and there's so many different ideas of what a good opener is: permission based, get to the point, like throw like bit of like caution to the wind, like just practice them, all the different types. There's so many out there. Whichever one feels the best is the one that's going to be best for you, because that's the one that's going to sound the most natural,
Mm-hmm.
which therefore means that the prospect's most likely going to say yes to having a conversation. So that's always my number one tip with it. I think people get so bogged down on what to say and they're forgetting about how they sound, and that's also where they fail.
Yeah, I'm well, I think we're both very similar on this point. I think my my biggest pet peeve in sales is the fact that people don't find their personality within stuff. Like it's the hardest thing, right? I'm normally class myself as maybe quite cheeky on the phone. Like I try and push my boundaries
Yeah.
a little bit. But someone that is quite monotone and quite serious probably isn't going to be able to have that same playfulness within their tone. So my opener of like saying I've caught you out of the blue, or like I've caught you in the middle of something and making a joke out of that, is not necessarily going to work for that person. So I'm exactly similar to you. The most critical thing that I think a lot of people get wrong when they start cold calling is understanding why these things work. So
Yeah.
yes, you have a pattern interrupt, or you have said owner, or you're trying to lead with maybe this observation. Like, understand why that works for maybe that person's tonality, but also why that just works in
Mm,
general. Like, what is it trying to do? Oh, we're trying to disarm them at that point, or we're trying to ask for an additional 30 seconds because that allows us to get to the problem statement. As soon as you figure out that, then what you can do is you can then go, oh, okay, so now what would necessarily suit my personality? Because
mm.
I still find it baffling. But there are people out there that call up and go, "Hey, how are you?" And that works. And I'm just like, in my head,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's never worked for me. It never will work for me. And I still don't know how it works for certain people. But there are some people that that actually works really well with, because maybe they've got something disarming
Yeah.
within their vocal cords
Yeah.
that allows to break down those
Exactly. So,
boundaries.
do you know what? On that, so I've got, and she won't mind me shouting her out, Grace on my team. She's from New Zealand. So she literally goes, "Hey, how's it going for you?" Like, that
Sorry,
works for her.
is
She's
that your
calling.
impression of someone from New Zealand?
Yeah, that's my.
I love how it came with
She's
the
gonna be like,
I love how it came with
Lauren.
the full accent.
She's going, Lauren, that was so bad. But she'll back me. But it works for her. It works for her saying that, because she's calling UK people. So to then hear the accent, already they're like, oh, someone that's not English is calling me. What's this accent? And like, we wouldn't say how's it going for, like, we wouldn't say it like that. Like, how's it going for you? Like, we
Hmm.
wouldn't say that. We'd be like, how are you? So
Hmm.
like, that already makes you go like, oh, like, so she's memorable doing it like that. But you're right, like, other people on my team don't do that. They go straight to like more permission based, or like straight away value prop. That's how they get the people staying on the phone. So it's so dependent. It's so dependent. It's mad.
What did you find worked for you? What did you settle on in the end for your personality?
I basically said, like, oh, hey Harry, it's Lauren calling from Swap. Look, I appreciate you weren't expecting the call, but I did notice that you guys were doing X. Do you mind if I just have a minute?
Yeah.
And that worked, because I think I've got quite like a I think I have a good tone. Like, I think I'm one of those people that does have like quite a memorable tone of voice. Like, I'm very confident in how I sound and how I speak. So me sort of sounding a little bit like, "Oh, do you mind?"
Yeah.
doesn't come across like nervous. It comes across like, "Go on, give it to me." Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Whereas somebody else, if they're really nervous on the phone and they're like, "Do you mind if I have a minute?" it's going to come across really meek.
Yeah, yeah.
So that kind of worked. That was my go-to. I thought, sort of like, acknowledge the fact that I've called them out the blue, present the fact there's a reason why I'm calling, like, and like give that little bit of pain, a little bit of value that I know about them, still ask for permission at the end. That was kind of my structure. What about you?
I think we're, again, probably quite similar on this, but a big thing for me that I'll just add before I go into it, depending on their probably tonality or like their enthusiasm on the call, or how I'm perceiving their reaction very quickly, I'll try and change the way that I'm speaking. I talk a lot when I'm training BDRs around like, do I want to talk really quickly and make you rush through this and make you digest this? Or do I want to
Yeah.
just take some really dramatic pauses for effect, so that we're slowing down the conversation so that you can digest? And a lot of the stuff,
Yeah.
even when I was an AE, a lot of it can be quite deliberate in the way that you're talking. But I would probably finish. Ended up finishing with, "Hey Lauren, it's Harry here calling from X company. Lauren, you're gonna hate me. I probably caught you at the worst possible time of your day. Um, but do you have a second for me to tell you why I'm specifically calling you?" And that's what
Nice.
I did. But again, I think that changed. That this is probably like iteration like 18 or something crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. 100%. 100%. Like, I was a BDR for 3 years, SDR. Like, I was doing it for a long time. Like, that was not my opener when I first started cold calling. Like, no way was it. I'm pretty sure I used to go with the, "Hi, is that Harry?"
Yeah.
Wait for them to like, "Yeah, it's Harry. Hi, Harry, it's Lauren calling from X." And then I would go into like a bit of a pitch. That's definitely I think that's like the original one you all start with. Everyone goes with the like, ask if it's the right person because I'm scared. and then like go from there. Um
But
on the
also,
point you were mentioning,
just quickly on that, Lauren, but that was also pre-COVID, where office lines actually worked.
yeah, so true. I would get through gatekeepers a lot easier.
Yeah, like I don't feel like we speak to gatekeepers anymore. Like it's you call like you call a company once and they're like, "Are you in office or out of office?" "Oh yeah, we're hybrid." "When does that person normally come in?" "Yeah, they come in once a month." "Okay, so I got an opportunity to use the direct line once a month, and it's basically potluck."
Yeah. And also, what I've noticed a common theme is that most gatekeeper numbers now, well, we called into like clothing brands and e-com brands, so
Yeah.
like they all tend to have like a customer service. Almost all the gatekeepers that we have now aren't gatekeepers; it's just their customer service line. So we're calling the gatekeeper,
Yeah.
but actually it's just going through to like some poor bloke called John who gets paid 9 till 5 to do customer service, and he has no idea who the X person is,
Mm,
X in the company,
yeah.
because their customer service, they actually have no association with main office anyway. So I found that to be quite common. That's definitely industry rather than
Mm,
like obviously all organizations, but I just don't think people have an office line.
yeah.
I don't think we have an office line where I work.
Yeah.
I'm pretty positive we don't even have an office line. So
I know
I think it's dead.
I know we do because we have to deal a lot with people calling us. But
Right.
um, no, I think it is
I
super
don't think the
interesting.
gatekeeper's gone. Yeah, I
No.
don't think it's gone. Like, I do think it's still there. Like, you never know who's picking up the phone. Like, literally, your ICP prospect could be on the back of the phone of the gatekeeper.
Hmm.
But I do think that the drop off of success from a gatekeeper, definitely, like, oh my God, like, that's gone down way more in comparison to like pre COVID, 100%.
Yeah, maybe that's a good segue for us to then just talk about like if you are reaching gatekeepers,
Yeah, that's nice.
what were some of the things that we were looking at trying to do back in the day? I mean, again, I don't think I've spoken to a gatekeeper probably for like 3 4 years. I feel like it was now, if I am going to go do cold calling as a BDR manager, like I am strictly
Yeah.
mobiles because there's no point wasting. If I've got an hour to do prospecting, I might as well make the most of it.
Yeah, but let's give tips on what we would do
Yeah, yeah,
for
oh,
it. So do you
100%.
wanna go on then? So do you wanna ask like, oh, what would you do though if you were to get through to a
Yeah, well, what would you do?
do you wanna ask the full question?
What, me?
Yeah.
You? Yeah, oh, that's what I
Do you want me
thought.
to ask
I thought that's what I was
Yeah,
asking
ask me the
you.
question. Yeah, ask me the
I thought I'd
question.
just done that.
Oh, no, do it again. Do it again for editing
Let
purposes.
me get back in the slunch position, man. Um, so, Lauren, what would you say to a gatekeeper?
If I was so first thing I would do is you want to build rapport. That's the first thing with a gatekeeper. Like, you're going to be calling this person probably nonstop now for the next like X amount of time to try and get them booked in. So I would 100% be trying to build rapport with them. And by that, it's, "Hi, I'm calling to speak to X. Are they available?" "No, they're not," because that's normally the answer. Or, "Oh no, can you send an email instead?" "Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've got no problem. More than happy to do that. Can I just ask, like, who is it that I'm speaking to now?" Get their name, get who they are. "Oh, they are X person." "Oh, hi X, like, lovely to meet you. Can I ask, like, do you have anything at all to do with whatever it is that you sell?" So, do you have anything to do with the finance team? Do you have anything to do with the marketing team, the ecom team, whatever? And then sometimes they'll go, "Actually, yeah, like, funnily enough, I do work in X team that you've literally just called about. But totally appreciate that I rang to speak to X, but do you mind if I just ask you a few questions? Because you might have the answer, then I'll know whether or not it's worth calling back anyway." And normally they will do it. They'll have the conversation because no one ever does that to them. They just go, "Okay, bye," and then hang up. So, like, makes them be like, "Oh, someone actually wants to speak to me for a change. This is fucking nice." So I would do that's what I've always recommended. Like, try and have a conversation with them, see who you're speaking to. I mean, I always mentioned that at one of my previous places, the person that picked up the phone that had the landline HQ number at my last org was the sales team.
Yeah.
So if a salesperson was calling, if they asked, who am I speaking to? They'd find out they're talking to literally another BDR, another SDR.
Yeah.
So then if they were clever, they'd probably be able to get an in.
Yeah.
But they never did it. They always would just go, hey, I'm calling to speak to X from the marketing team. Oh, no, sorry, they're not at their desk. We've got no transfer line. Can't give you to them. Oh, okay, no worries. I'll try again later. Bye. It's all like, there's such an easy, I think that's such an easy way. Did you ever do similar?
Yeah, well, I think depending on the technology you sell, when I was in Martech and sales or RevTech, sales tech, whatever they called it, a lot of stuff that I would do is peer-to-peer stuff anyway. But yeah, when I was normally it's slightly different, so to what you're saying, and I think by the way, that was great advice of like build that rapport. I took a different stance of probably not as building as much rapport because I've been at a company where I've been answering, like the office line would ring and random people would then pick up in the office, and it's just like, oh, you're trying to sell us something? They're not in. Like I literally used to be sat like 10 meters away from the big bosses, and I'd be like, so and so's on the phone. They'd be like, I'm not going to be in for a month, and then you'd just be like, yeah, you're going to have to drop them an email in 3 months' time. A lot of the time, there are people in the office, and especially at the smaller businesses, like in the SMB or the lower SMB space, like you could be potentially in the office with someone, and they're just not interested in taking a call. But what I
Yeah.
would try and do, yes, try and do a little bit of qualification. I think one of the big things I would definitely recommend is that just open up LinkedIn, go on the people tab, and when they say, oh, yeah, it's Andrew, type in Andrew. Okay, which Andrew is it? It's probably going to be this person.
Yeah.
Or what team are they in? And you don't even need to be asking sometimes for this. You can figure it out pretty quickly. But I would be maybe a little bit more direct with my opener, and I'd be like, hold on, wait, is this not Andrew? Oh, sorry, Andrew literally sent me a message about his direct dial. Like, is it 01 that I needed to add on the end? Because I put this, and I would just basically make up some way of like how I was meant to be getting through to them. And
Right. Okay.
sometimes I'd just be like, oh, Andrew's asked me to give him a call. What's the call about? He's just messaged me to put me through. Could you please put me through? And again, maybe I'm a little bit more forceful in my approach, right? But I would take the assumption that Andrew had asked me to basically, I don't know why we've picked Andrew as this random guy, but this, I would make the assumption. And I remember during the early webinars coming off COVID, and I can't remember what his name was. What is his name? We'll be able to tag maybe the episode or something like that. But there was this guy at Taurus, and he was like, here's how I used to get CEOs walking out the door, back in the door to answer my phone calls because I made an EA think that my call was the most important thing. And it was all about delivering that problem statement. Hey, Andrew's asked me to give him a call about solving X challenge. Or
Okay. Literally just like trying to be like,
you try to, yeah. But I do agree with you. I think rapport sometimes build is good for building if it's their EA. If it's their executive assistant, their role is to not put you through. So rapport building is good. So I think a lot of the time I would try to get through. If you can't get through, then I would start building rapport. But also, what's the percent? Like, start to figure out whether you do this as like a tally. Start to figure out what your percentage of pass the gatekeeper is. Because if you said out of 100 gatekeepers that you speak to, you only ever get through to one, yes, okay, one. So actually, in reality, sometimes is actually a good percentage in cold calling. But like, is it worth the squeeze? Sometimes you've just got to ask yourself that. Because if we very easily turn around and say it's 1,000 to one, is this a gatekeeper? Yes, bang, on to the next one. Would you be better off building rapport for 3-4 minutes with a gatekeeper, or would you be better trying to dial as many numbers in 4 minutes as possible? That's sometimes the weight that you've got to play. But I think I used to do this. I don't know if you did, but I'd have a notebook and I would tally up how many conversations or gatekeepers I got through to each day and kind of where they fall. You kind of do that now with your dispositions in Outreach and Sales Loft and tools like that. But I remember very visually doing this a lot more in detail about where I was getting trumped on the phone with my tally
Yeah.
lines at the start of the day or as I was going through
Yeah.
my day.
And on that, to segue, I think that not enough reps are going back through their dials and looking at their dispositions,
Hmm.
looking at the heat maps. All these tools these days, whatever tool you're using for your dialing, provides you with data when your best time calling is, how about your average dispositions, your average talk time, how long it took you to book a meeting. Like everything is trackable now. We have AI embedded in almost all these tools to
Hmm.
spit this data at you. Are you actively going in on a Friday or a Monday, looking at your performance for that week, seeing what worked for you? When did you book your meetings? What was your most common thing this week? What was your most common like objection? Like what's coming up in your calls? Because all of these also have like language like puller outers that tells you like your most common objections. Are you doing that and then sitting down and going, okay, so now I know next week I need to do X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
I guarantee majority of the BDRs are not doing that. And that's also something to do with your manager as well. Like do that with your manager and then
Yeah.
ask them for coaching. Say to them like, right, the most common objection I'm getting in my cold calls is X and X. Please, can we do some role play and can we figure out for me to get better at this? Not enough are doing it. And that is such an easy cheat code to get better. Like the tools give it to you. Use it.
100%. I mean, I've literally just gone through my Q3 reviews with my team and we look at dispositions, we look at negative versus positive conversations. I was going to save this more to the end, but as we're on the topic, what I'm really interested to get your take on how you disposition calls. And again, we'll then jump straight back into some of the cold calling tips. But I had a really, really interesting chat with Tito, and he was saying that the way that he dispositions calls is he'll disposition on where the call dropped off rather than what the outcome was. So rather than like we do, like not interested, using a competitor, call back, no answer, meaningful conversation, referral, whatever that might look like, meeting booked. The classic that I think primarily everyone uses. He had a different approach, which I thought was really, really interesting. And I was trying to work out, do I change the dispositions to this because I like it, or do I add the
Mm.
notes? But what he does is he'll be like, introduction, problem statement. So when you're doing your mini pitch, then like if you break down the questions that you would normally ask on a call, like early stage, mid stage, late stage questions, and his dispositions is where they went and gave you an objection which allowed you to not be able to close, so that they can then coach.
Interesting.
Yeah, then they can coach on where reps are falling short. So if they're not getting past the pitch, then you practice the pitch. If it's late stage questioning, then we're struggling with, have we discovered enough pain? And then they write, oh, it's late stage questioning. And then they'll write down, because they have a competitor in place, I was asking these types of questions. And they use the notes to define the reason, and they use the
Yeah.
dispositions to define where they lose. And I thought, fuck
That is
me, that is
such an
really smart.
interesting way to. Yeah, I've never heard of that before. We do our dispositions exactly the same, like meeting booked,
Hmm.
connected, like not interested. Da, da, da. We're exactly the same as you. I think we do it. That's how most places do it, the very
Yeah.
generic way. That I've never even thought of that. That is so. Well, how did he even come up with that? I'm so
I,
interested
I
by this.
I think it's, well, because he's done BDR management for a long time and
Yeah.
he's built a company now that does part of this. I I was thinking, for me, as someone that is managing three different regions, the hardest thing I find about Amir is that, because if your company doesn't want you recording calls, because there's that grey line, can you record calls, can you not? I was speaking to someone today, he records his cold calls for his teams in Europe, and we can't. We never worked at a company where I can, but that those coaching moments become really hard. And then it's also on the BDR, who,
Mhm.
by the way, is normally their first career stop in sales. It's on them to drive us as BDR managers on like what we can actually help with. So if they say it's the problem
Yeah,
statement, we have to
or
put a
you've got to
trust.
put like. Yeah, you got to like put like time in to sit in a room with them and be with them whilst they're calling, so
Hmm.
you can actually
Yeah.
listen to both sides.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is something we come back to as a topic because I think it's really interesting about like,
Yeah.
would we flip to that? But I do want to turn our attention to the main topic of cold calling. When it comes to cold calling, do you have a framework that you follow, like how you break down cold calls, or is it just, hey, this is the general gist of how a good cold call or best practice of a cold call happens?
Yeah, very much just like the gist of it, which I like because then it means that everyone can kind of stick to like what works well for them as a person, which I think is the
Hmm.
key with cold calling.
Yeah.
However, I think a framework is really beneficial when you're new to cold calling and it gives you something to at least follow. And then like it's not as hard to sort of like navigate yourself around because you're like, okay, like I know to like go here and here. So no, I never got taught a framework as a BDR with cold calling. And I think that's probably why now as a leader, I don't
Mm.
really teach a framework because
Yeah.
that's not what I was taught. Um, so I'm keen to hear you because you know you're very good at frameworks and like ways to break things down. So I've got
Yeah.
no doubt that there's a way that you do this.
Well, yeah, uh, I was a bit shit at cold calling to start. I thought I'd be a lot better at it than I was. I built my own framework, and then I ended up posting it on LinkedIn, which I think ended up getting like I think like 200,000 people seeing it. And then I ended up coaching
Nice.
teams on it. So I've kind of stuck to that. And the way that I think about it, we'll probably tag this as a resource, how we think of when we're posting this. We're still learning on the fly of how we're going to get the most information to anyone that chooses to listen.
Yeah.
But I think very simply, it's introduction, which is the hey, it's Harry calling, blah, blah, blah. I probably caught you in the middle of something, but do you have a second for me to tell you where I called today? That's your introduction. That's the first thing, because that's the thing that gets you to the next stage, which is what I call the problem statement. And the reason I don't call it a
Yep.
pitch is because it shouldn't be a pitch. Too many companies or BDRs go into like, yeah, so Lauren, we help this person do this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this. This is why our product is the best. Would you like a meeting? And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. How the fuck are we at closing stage? I had someone call me today and
Yeah.
I gave him some feedback. We were 3 minutes into a call. He'd asked me one question and he said, hey, would it make sense for us to have a call next week? And I was like, hell no. Like, where have you done the
Nice.
discovery? But so the problem
Yeah.
statement would sound very simply could be like, um, hey, Lauren, well, the reason for my call is we speak to a lot of other ex personas who are struggling with this problem, this problem. Now, there is what I say is like a level two to this, which is you are just listing customer problems and you could be like, hey, do any of these resonate? And you normally do two or three problems that you solve for. When I speak to like people like Benjamin Dennehy, and I did when we saw him at the event that we both went to, I went over to him and started role playing cold calls with him. And he was like, what you've got to do is you've got to think about the emotional buy-in. So how does it make someone feel? So I would then select two problems. So, hey, Lauren, we've been speaking to other SDR
X.
leaders, and they are struggling with ramping people up, which is taking 3 months, which is leading to extended probations or something like this. So there's some form of like emotion or pain that they would feel that you try and link it to.
Mm.
So he said it's all about telling a story as part of that. So it's not like because you're a BDR manager, you're probably struggling with ramping sales time and missing quota. Like isn't most BDR managers probably struggling with one of those things, if not both? It's about
Yep.
like, hey, struggling with ramping people, which is costing the business a huge amount of time, which means they're extending probations and they're having to spend more on recruitment fees, which is becoming a massive frustration. And your boss ends up looking at, is Lauren any good at hiring? Like that would be the story. So that, and then I normally go into finishing the problem statement with, hey, Lauren, you're probably going to tell me none of these, any challenges for you, but wanted to see if they were. And then you go into the probing questions. And realistically, this is trying to find the why behind the why. So this is like early stage, mid stage, and late stage questions. And what you're trying to do realistically from this is find 2 to 3 bits of pain. So if I was prospecting you and we were having a cold call and you were like, yeah, so we're missing quota at the moment, or I'm struggling with this. That's one. This is now not an opportunity for you to close. Tell me a bit more about that. What is the impact on this?
Yeah.
What does this mean? And you go down this route. And what this allows us to do is then move to the final two parts, which is framing. Because what normally happens, and we've definitely both done this, is you hear a pain and you go into BDR verbal diarrhea mode of let me tell you why my product solves for this, and let me tell you why we're great
Yeah.
at this, and you just spew the AE pitch almost at them, and they're like, so 30 minutes next week? That is just such a poor use of your time. As a BDR, you never need to be selling. You need to have little mini pitches that you can be like, yeah, when I spoke to a company that was doing that, they struggled with this as well. That allowed them to do this. Would that be worth exploring? But that frame close is probably the biggest tip that I have ever learned myself, which was rather than go into the pitch mode, hey, Lauren, it sounds like you've got a couple of challenges with your BDR team. It sounds like ramping time is just taking way longer than it needs to, which is meaning that you're probably going to have a higher churn of talent and you're missing quota, which is having a big issue on actually the revenue numbers, not necessarily just the pipeline numbers. Lauren, if I could show you a solution that could potentially solve for those challenges, would that even be worth us spending a little bit more time on or worth exploring? And that
Nice.
you almost sound dumb saying no, that wouldn't be worth spending time on because you've just highlighted that you do have challenges and you've just agreed that those are challenges. And then that allows you
Yeah.
to then move booking into the meeting, which is the final stage of the framework. So introduction, problem statement, probing questions, frame close, booking meeting.
Nice. I love that. That's a great framework. On that, we're now going to segue. What is the thing you hate the most that you hear on cold calls or that you see reps do when it comes to cold calls?
There's a lot. There's a lot. I think what I always find baffling. This is probably uh, I don't know if you feel this. I always find it weird that someone cold calls me and doesn't look at my LinkedIn.
Yes, that's a good one.
I
That's a
find
good one.
not something that I think is really bad that people well not it's not like my overarching theme. I think a lot of people sound like they're reading off a script, and I think probably the biggest issue in cold calling is people don't ask good enough questions that allow you to actually uncover pain. And actually, I also think A's do a terrible job of it when we think about discovery calls as well. So it's not just cold calling that it's bad at. I think a lot of people or calls that I've ever listened to, that's normally the biggest area of challenge for a lot of people is really, really getting to actually what is the pain and why should they solve it now. But what I do find always really, really fascinating is when anyone does any form of outreach and they don't go and check your LinkedIn. So I'll be like, I've received like 3 cold calls
I
this week from
could
this
not agree
guy,
more.
and he's never ever viewed my LinkedIn, and I'm clearly present on LinkedIn. Like I clearly have spent a bit of time thinking about what do I look like on LinkedIn and trying to build a brand. That is probably my area where you're going to probably get the best response from me, but yet you've never even bothered to check it out. So either it's not in your sequence, either you're doing lazy research, or you have no idea who you're cold calling, you're just bashing a list.
Yeah, completely agree. I think this all the time with just outbounding in general for me. I'm a gold mine for an outbound for a BDR. Like I share so much on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So much. There is literally so many things that you can use in your outbounding to me. And the lack of personalization, picking up the phone, email, LinkedIn is honestly, it's shocking. Like, yeah, I completely agree. It's mad. It's mad.
Yeah. What about you? What's your pet peeve or thing you hate about calling or things that people do wrong?
I think, oh, I hate the opener. Hey, Lauren, I know you probably hate cold calls, but can I have 30 seconds of your time anyway? And the reason I hate it is because I'm a BDR manager. I'm telling my team to pick up the phone every day. And you just cold called me and said, you probably hate cold calls. Guys, like, what? Like, what? Like, don't get me wrong. We all know there's sales leaders out there that hate it. We know that. Like, no disputing that. But you can see on my LinkedIn that I post about the fact that my team cold call, that we've got cold calling tools and da 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 da. It's obvious that I cold call. Why are you using that as an opener on me? Every single time I go, oh, well, that'd be a bit weird, seeing as I'm a BDR manager and I asked them to cold call. So why would you think I'd hate them? And every time they're like, oh, ha 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 ha, because like they've just not thought about it. They've just, and it frustrates me every single time.
Yeah, I would agree. I find it crazy. Well, first of all, I find it crazy that a BDR manager would even say that they hate cold calling, or any sales leader, considering it's probably one of the best channels still to go and create pipeline.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I have seen that opener work really well with some individuals, 100%. But I think I do agree with you. If you're calling a sales leader, I think that is probably where you would change it, because most of them would probably enjoy
100%.
a good
Yeah.
cold call. Actually, do you know what? Just to reflect that, I had a really good cold call from someone, and one of the big things that I really enjoyed was like, I was chucking objections at him, and actually he's calling me at a good time because I'm in the market for something. I won't say what, just in case someone is listening, and now my phone just starts ringing. But the he he he's only actually, I think, like 5 months in, but he was like, "You're literally reading the objection document." Like, so like, this is one of my big tips for cold calling. Is You'd probably agree with this. BDRs are just not
Yeah.
prepared. So if I said to you, Lauren, not interested, you should know what your response is going to be to that. It shouldn't be a case of like you're having to figure it out for the first time on the call live with a prospect. You should know the answer to that. So build a cheat sheet of like, what are the 12, 20, whatever, how many objections that you normally receive, what they look like, and what your answers would be. And then write an A answer and a B answer and go and A B test them and work out which ones work best for your personality. But one of the things that I really liked, I was like, oh, could you send me an email? And he was like, normally when people say they're going to send me an email, it's normally because they don't have something that something I've said that maybe hasn't
Yeah.
interested them, and they're probably not going to read it. Like, would you say that's a fair assessment of that objection? And I was like, no, genuinely, I will read it. We ended up going, he was like, yeah, but would it make sense to then book in a 30-minute meeting? Once you have read it, how long do you need to read it? 2 weeks. Okay, can we book in a 30-minute meeting? And I was like, he's just on the ball with every single objection.
Yeah. Nice.
At the end, I read the stuff that he did send over, because I was like, actually, he left such an impression that I'm actually intrigued in what he does. And
Yeah.
we've actually got a meeting on Monday. And I've asked for him to come to the call so that he can just
Nice.
see what was some of the other additional objection. Well, not because I'm trying to like now give an objection training session, but because I'm actually intrigued on
It
seeing.
sounds like you to do
Because,
that to me.
yeah, would you be open to some feedback? I'm such a twat like that. It's just because I wish people had done that to me all the time. I wish
Yeah.
people had always given me feedback on my cold calls, even if I didn't book the meeting. I have done that a couple of
Yeah.
times. I've called people back and I've been like, hey, I know that I've just called you, but would you be open to giving me some feedback? Because I wasn't able to book the meeting.
Nice.
But yeah, that
Yeah.
objection handling
Nice.
sheet is the most, like, throw your script out. If there was any doc that I was going to have in front of me, that would be my doc.
Yeah. I think that's a great tip. That's something that like I haven't built well enough for my team. Like we've got generalized responses for some of the most basic objections, but by far we've not built that out big enough. We've not got a big objection tree, which is 100% like something that I recommend everyone to do, and like what I even need to do for my team. So that's a great tip. Um well, we've talked the world's to rights there. I think we've been yapping on for about 40 minutes.
We have indeed. It's probably a good way to finish the show then. So, any kind of closing top tips or things that people should be thinking about for cold calling? You shoot one, I'll shoot one, and then
So my top tip is stop going into the cold call, focus on booking a meeting, and go in trying to have a conversation. Like, that's what you should be thinking about when it comes to a cold call. Go in and think, I want to come away from this conversation with 2 things that I can use the next time I call them or in the rest of my outreach. And if you go in with that, you're more likely to book a meeting than if you go in with just the meeting being the intent.
Yeah. Mine would be not practice makes perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect. So get good at doing role plays non-stop and be really excited about testing things out and being experimental with people that aren't going to cost you business money, so you're not burning through a list.
Yeah, I love that. I don't think enough people role play. So I think that's, by
You
far a fantastic tip.
have to be doing half an hour a week in my eyes, or at least with
Yeah.
someone. I try and do it with my team, but sometimes I have to move it because I maybe don't need it an extra half an hour back. But even if it's just with another BDR or another one of your AEs, AEs are great people to be role playing with. Lauren, we're Friday, so what have you got planned for the weekend?
Oh, so nothing too much tonight. Friday, gonna chill the rest of the evening. I think maybe go to the gym if it's still open. It shuts early on a Friday. I always forget. And then
With your back?
with my back, if I'll only do I do like a swim. Like, I'm not gonna
just doing like
start
this
bench
exercise.
pressing. Could you imagine? I've only just been able to sit down again, and I whack to the
Yeah.
gym and start benching 200.
Swimming would be good. Swimming would be definitely good for that.
Yeah, swimming's a good one. It's low impact, so probably do that. Then the rest of the weekend, it's a friend weekend. This one actually going out
Nice.
tomorrow evening. To the pub, seeing some friends that are coming down from Bristol and Cardiff, which is nice. And then Sunday, it's going out for a roast. Absolute banger. Can't go
I'm
wrong
doing the
going out for a
same.
roast. So
I'm doing exactly the
that's my
same.
weekend. Yeah, what about you?
I've got
Nice.
tonight is chill, and then helping a mate move house tomorrow, and then golf Sunday,
Nice.
and then roast. So it'll be a nice wholesome weekend, and then straight into another busy week, which I'm looking forward to.
Straight into another biggie week. Yeah. Lovely. Well, I think there's some really good top tips there for people to listen to, and it wasn't just us yapping a load of shit. So
Hopefully
good
there's something
first
in
step,
there.
I say.
I'm sure there will be. But guys, thank you very much for listening. Really appreciate it. We'll be hopefully back very soon with our next episode, and it's going to continue with the theme of Outbound.
Perfect. See you later, lads.
Thanks, guys. See you, Lauren. Bye.
Bye. Nice. I am. Don't worry. I need to